Let me just, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Hello?
Okay, perfect. Sorry. You want my video on? That good? I don't know if you give a shit.
No. August.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, what's up?
Yeah, so I've seen you make this argument like a dozen times over the last two goddamn years. Yeah, so I assumed that someone at this point has been willing to call you out on your shit here, but I guess I gotta be the grown person in the room. So, you said, you tweeted one time that this reminds me a year or so ago when trans women were running around Twitter saying that they were having periods. And you've mentioned this quite a bit of times where you're basically saying that like trans women are saying they can have periods. This is ridiculous, as trans women obviously don't have a uterus. This is making the trans community seem deranged and paints trans people as delusional. Do you think that's fair to say?
Sure.
Okay. I guess where do you think you're coming from? Sorry, that was a little aggressive.
Yeah. Slow down, everybody. Where are we coming from? Jesus, chill.
Yeah, true. I'm sorry. Why do you feel like that's a fair? Why do you think that's a delusional take?
Because trans women don't have anything to do with periods or anything.
They don't have uteruses, right?
Well, and they don't have like the cycle of hormones, and they don't have they just don't have the machinery to do that.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I mean, they're literally pumping themselves full of estrogen. Do you think it would be ridiculous to say that they might not have some knock-on effect, some sort of like externality where they're experiencing some aspects of a period, but obviously not like menstruation?
Yes, it would be ridiculous.
Okay. Well, okay. So I feel like
let's talk for a moment, okay? Let's just have a quick boys chat, okay?
Yeah.
So you have something called PMS, which stands for premenstrual syndrome. And then you've got the actual period itself, which is where the uterine linings are shed, the egg is ejected, and all of the random shit comes out of you over the course of a few days, okay? A woman's cycle is around, 27 days or something? Some shit like that, okay?
Sure.
PMS has some symptoms associated with it. A period has some symptoms associated with it. Sometimes we colloquially refer to PMS and the period as a quote-unquote period, like, oh, she's grumpy because she's on her period. Oftentimes we're talking about PMS, whatever. The dramatic mood swings that are associated with, people will say a period, but what they mean is PMS. I believe those dramatic mood swings are because there is a cycle of hormones that happens with a woman's body as she is experiencing her natural ovulation, ejection of egg, et cetera, et cetera. When you're a trans person, you're not having that same cycle back and forth. You're not having now you might have a bit of a, like, depending on how often you do your injections and depending on what your method is, you might have like a feeling like a week after of like a different kind of mood swing, because you right when you inject, if you do it, I don't know if they do it monthly, tri-monthly, or what the thing is, but I know like for testosterone, if you're on gear or whatever, right, you might inject, you might feel like shit for a week, you might feel really good for 2 weeks, you might have to come down for a week or whatever. You can have like that kind of cycle, but that has nothing to do with with a period or with PMS. That's something that would be unique to exogenous hormones.
I feel like I don't know how fair it is to say that because this is coming from estrogen necessarily that you're putting into your body, that we can't necessarily compare this to, like, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think if you ask any of these trans women who say that they're having periods, that they would say they're having menstruation, right? That they're bleeding out of their...
But somebody literally said they were, the big tweet that got almost 100,000 likes was experiencing...
So I've got that tweet. Yeah, I've got that tweet where they said, okay, here, I don't know. Well, I mean, there've been a few. So one of them is, okay, I'm a trans woman who's experiencing her first period cramps, and what the fuck? I've literally never felt pain like this. Why do we let people live like this? And this came out on my radar because you tweeted about it. But if you look down the thread, they said, I literally don't even have a uterus. Why is my body treating me like this?
Yeah, it's called mental disability / delusion / too much time on Twitter. Yeah.
Wait, but like I could pull up fairly reputable sources that say that like estrogen can affect the body in various ways, and transgender women may experience several side effects while taking supplemental estrogen. Like, I'm not saying that we have full data on this, but there hasn't been...
Hold on. If we're going to have this conversation, we need to be very, 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 very precise, okay?
Yes.
Mood swings and stuff related to your biology can happen whether you're on TRT or HRT, of course.
Okay.
Things like period cramps or like the cyclical up and downs that would be associated with PMS probably are not happening.
I agree that it could be the case that this isn't happening, but wouldn't you say that it's better to just research this and find out if this is actually occurring?
I have
because
never
it seems
seen
like,
research ever that
I agree.
corroborates it.
No, I know.
So
but you
then
haven't seen any research that does the opposite either. So I don't know why
how
you're.
are you supposed to prove a negative? How do you do research
No,
to see if trans women have period cramps?
I'm not saying you got. I'm not saying you got to prove a negative. I'm not even going to say that you have to say that trans people are having a period. I'm just saying maybe you can sit this one out until research happens. Research comes along and says,
"Oh yeah, you can't have research." If a trans man was out here saying like, "God, now I finally know what blue balls feels like. This is excruciating," I'm going to call him retarded. I don't need a study to tell me that you can't have blue balls if you don't have balls.
I don't feel like they're saying that they have blue balls, though. I'm not saying they're not saying that they're bleeding out of their uterus. If that's what they were saying, or bleeding out of their vagina,
cramps are caused by the uterus.
Not necessarily. There is hormonal aspects.
I've never heard. Okay, I don't know anything about female reproduction, so if you want to educate me, then go for it. I don't know how hormones cause cramps. My understanding is that the cramping is because the muscles in the uterus are squeezing and doing shit to expel the lining or whatever that didn't get used when you weren't pregnant. That's cramps.
Yes.
Cramps are not just a fluctuation in hormones. They're related to the organ of the uterus.
No, I know. So how do you explain that people after hysterectomies generally report period cramps?
One, I don't know if that's true. Two,
it is. So yeah, go ahead.
Two, even if it is true, there are different types of hysterectomies, is my understanding. So, for instance, a hysterectomy doesn't always mean the full removal of every single part of the female reproductive system. And three, some people do experience ghost pain related to missing limbs, so that might explain it. However, going all the way back to the first one, I've never heard that people with hysterectomy still get like period cramps. I don't know if that's true or not.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, I can send you sources if you want them, but what I will get at is I think that it's a little premature, especially considering the lack of research that's going on in the trans community, which I'm sure that you are aware of. I don't think that you're an idiot, especially regarding trans issues. Like there is a chasm of research that just has not been done on trans people. For you to just overwhelmingly point to it and say, yeah, I understand that the human body is really complicated. Yeah, I'm sure we haven't really done any research onto how exactly estrogen.
No. You haven't given me anything for this at all. And I don't believe you about the hysterectomy thing. I'm just Googling. So this is saying that about 2 to 3% of women who have had hysterectomy develop a new pain problem after surgery because we specialize in the evaluation treatment of pain. We haven't seen women, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the pain comes from scar tissue that is formed during the healing process of the original hysterectomy. When this scar involves one or both ovaries, those are things that trans women don't have, generally, the pain may occur in monthly cycles in a pattern similar to menstrual discomfort a person may have had before the hysterectomy. So this doesn't sound like they're still having traditional period cramps. It sounds like something different that's still related to the machinery that's there.
Okay, so you're saying, I just want to make sure, I want to understand where you're coming from. Do you feel like trans women, when they take a lot of this estrogen, they are experiencing fluctuations and maybe some pain, but they are misattributing that to period cramps?
Fluctuations, maybe. I guess it depends on the types of dosing or how they do HRT. I've heard of, and Stryker was already fucking reeing the fuck out, even though they are probably not 100% correct. I've heard a lot of different methods for how people do HRT. I've heard some people say they do daily injections. I've heard some people say they do monthly, and I've heard some people say longer things. I don't know what is the standard right now, but it seems like there's a lot of different ways to do it. But if you're getting a regular dose of exogenous hormones, then no, I don't think you're going to have like a monthly cycle. Also, I don't think that a fluctuation in hormones explains cramps. No, I don't believe that.
I don't think that it's as absurd as you're putting it, and I think that it's not absurd enough for you to say. Do you just point to
how is it
so
not
many
absurd?
People? Because the body is complicated. I don't know how to say it other than that. But like,
yeah, but
when you're introducing something that is such a,
can you point to anything that would cause period cramps?
I would assume that the estrogen that you're putting into your body, so much so that your body is primed to recognize all of these additional hormones and might confuse itself or something like that.
Women that are on you can get an injection or an implant that makes it so you don't have a period for a fucking year. They still have estrogen and shit in their body. Why don't they have period cramps?
Yeah, I'm just saying the body's complicated.
That doesn't answer anything. My 20 inches long, even though it was only 7 inches long yesterday or whatever. How is that possible? Well, the body's complicated. You wouldn't accept that answer. That's not an answer.
I'm not. I don't know. I don't know if I follow that point at all.
What you're saying is nonsense. You can't have cramps if you don't have the thing that makes cramps.
I just feel like that this is such an unexplored area of science that for you to just point to it and say that it's absurd and say that it's ridiculous is frustrating to me.
How could
Does that make sense?
Tell me how you could even explore this area. Are you having pain in an organ that you don't have? I don't even know. I wouldn't wait for a test on that. Like I said, if trans men were complaining about blue balls, would you say we need a study to figure out if they're actually experiencing it or not?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Why? Aren't hormones complicated?
Yeah, I'm hearing what you're saying. I think that when I hear trans people say that they're having periods, what they point to first and foremost is just like is kind of that cycle of emotions. You know?
Okay, no. Holy goalpost, Batman. Okay. If you want to talk about cycle of emotions,
would you agree with that at the very least?
Yeah, hormones are definitely going to change your emotions. Absolutely.
Sure, but you don't think that period cramps could exist at all?
No, not really, no.
Okay. Okay. Just wanted to hear that. Because I think that from what I've seen is there... It seems like that could be possible, and I'm interested. And I guess I'm just saying that I'm interested in hearing out a little bit more.
Okay.
Before I'm just going to label an entire community as batshit insane.
Well, it's not an entire community. It's just the lunatics on Twitter. I don't think normal trans people do this shit. It's just
I feel like I have normal trans friends who have said, yeah, no, I have experienced cramping. I don't know what to call it necessarily because I don't have anything to attribute it to, right? Because I don't have this like. I've never experienced period cramps as a cis woman. I have no idea what that feels like, but I am experiencing a quite like a tightness and complaints about that.
It's probably just a stomach ache or indigestion. Okay. That'd be my guess.
All right. Sure. Okay. Fair enough. I guess. Just another quick question, just because I'm curious about a few different things.
What's up?
The birthing person dialogue. I know you've been pretty frustrated with that one too, as far as I'm aware. Do you think that that's really an issue with trans people, or do you think that's an issue with the language being a little cringy?
I think the language is super cringy, and I think people.
Yeah. Do you feel like if they called it like a birthing area or something like that, I don't sound as fucking stupid? Prior
to like the trans issues being all over Twitter, I don't think any doctor or anybody was worried about this ever. Like people are acting like, oh no, in medical terminology, it's super normal. I don't believe that. I don't think that is super normal that you go to a hospital. It's like, oh yes, we have a.
I don't think it's super normal either. Yeah. I went to my sister-in-law just got pregnant recently, and it was just called a maternity ward, and it was part of the women's center. Like I don't think anyone's calling it a birthing person, or they're using that language at all. But I'm wondering if that's such a bad idea that they're trying to be more inclusive, and
because
we should.
Here's the issue. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say that a whole bunch of new people started to say we want to go by she/her pronouns. Okay. And people traditionally didn't call them, she/her pronouns. Okay. That's probably fine. It's just their pronouns. We can use their pronouns. Who cares? Let's say instead, though, they came out and they were like, okay, listen, from now on, women are going to go by these/her pronouns. All women are going to go by that. Well, the women that were previously she/her are going to be like, wait, why the fuck is this incredibly small group now dictating to me what my new pronouns have to be? Like, I just want to use she/her like I did before. That's the issue, is birthing person takes away the prior language that it seemed like we used to refer to women, and now it's like giving us this new kind of like trans-inclusive language that's changing what a prior group already referred to themselves as. That's why people have the problem.
Wait, hold on. Speaking of language and biology, you would agree that trans men could get pregnant for sure, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. Do you feel like it's such a bad idea for us to use a little bit more inclusive language when we talk about maternity wards and maybe expanding it to make sure that it's all people instead of just women?
I think that the issue, if you're going to start changing the language, the problem is that trans men are already a very small subset of the population.
Yeah, for sure. No,
trans men that are getting pregnant are going to be even a smaller subset of the population. And historically, there is a lot of gravity attached to women's issues, pregnancies, and abortions. And we're right now in the United States, we're taking like steps backwards insofar as our access to an abortion, right? So the idea that now we're also going to smear the language of like what is a woman and it's a birthing person now and all that, probably not a good idea. Probably a really politically bad idea.
Let me make sure I'm rephrasing your argument correctly. You feel like if we are using more gender inclusive language in hospitals, that it is going to set back women's rights?
I think that the women who feel like their rights are being infringed upon are definitely going to feel negatively about it. Yes.
I feel like they only feel negative about it. And, I could be so wrong on this, but from what I've seen, the frustration that people have had, it's really the stupid ass cringy language like birthing person, which sounds like an alien describing a human being.
Here's the issue. Okay. This is the hard thing for women, okay? The hard thing for women is you exist at the behest of and for the pleasure and experience of men in society, okay? It's called the male gaze. Every facet of your existence is evaluated through how it feels from a man, right? And this is exemplified in every single like pro or anti-women movie. Look at the health at every size thing, right? Why the fuck are men so upset about health at every size? Men have never given a about women's health ever. They're mad about health at every size because now the women don't look
because now they're kind of ugly.
Yeah, they're fat. That's the only men never gave a women's health, and they still don't give a about women's health ever.
No, they guys just
guys don't know shit about hormones or a period or anything like that. They're just mad at the health at every size thing because they want to fuck all the women. They want them to look fuckable even if they're not fucking them, right? So if you've lived your whole life where every facet of your existence is kind of analyzed through like the male gaze, right? And now you've got trans women which are like, okay, sure, that's fine. But now trans women are competing in your sports, are being forwarded as arguments for why women's sports should be eliminated, are now starting to show up in some women's areas, like women's prison, and are now being used to relabel all women as like birthing people or people with the capacity for pregnancy. Yeah, I can, and a lot of it is being pushed by cis white men. I can understand why people feel really bad about it. Go ahead.
Hold on. Yeah. I would buy this argument if it weren't women overwhelmingly acceptable of these changes.
I don't know if women are overwhelmingly acceptable.
Well, if you look at trans acceptance, it's way higher in women than men.
Hold on. Trans acceptance. That's like saying everybody's happy with like expanded healthcare. Trans acceptance is a very broad thing. I think the majority, my guess would be, even the majority of Republicans are probably okay with quote unquote trans acceptance, but
ostensibly,
but they're gonna. No, I think they actually, as long as they aren't fucked with, they probably don't care. But when you start getting into things like we're gonna change how we refer to all women, or we're gonna include like trans women who immediately identify as women into NCAA sports or female prisons, people are probably gonna start to feel a lot differently about those, like the minutia of the issues. The actual precise issues, rather than just broadly speaking the quote unquote trans acceptance.
Okay, that's maybe fair, but I guess I don't know if Okay, that's probably fair. But what I will say is that trans acceptance was too broad. But I also think that when you look at trans women in sports, the acceptance versus men versus women is higher. And you see a lot of people, the same exact thing that you were critiquing about, like how women's health, people don't give a shit about women's swimming either until trans women are in it. And now they've got something to rage about, where they weren't supporting women in sports at all until this shit got brought up.
Sure, I agree, but at least women had legal protections for their sports, like Title IX funding.
Yeah, sure. I honestly don't even want to get into the trans people in sports thing because that's not. I think that that's probably fair. Depending on the sport.
Okay, so I don't know how accurate this viewpoint is. So, a person should be able to legally self-identify as a gender different from the one they were assigned at birth. It seems like most women agree with that. A transgender woman is a woman. It seems like most women partially disagree. Transgender man is a man, partially disagree. Transgender
comparatively.
Women, it just seems like they were given a 1 to 5 on whether.
So it's just women. It's not men versus women.
No. This is just women. Just women. I'm guessing.
Okay.
That's how this is done, right?
Sure.
Transgender women should be allowed to partake in women's sporting events. Seems like that's the plurality disagree with that. Now, for all U.S. adults, they majorly disagree.
Wait, a plurality? What is the third option?
I don't know. It could be other. Women, men, and other. Maybe for trans people.
Well, you said plurality, meaning it's less than 50, right? I would think this is just a yes or no question. Sorry, I'm not seeing what's in front of you. Maybe I can pull up.
Okay, here, you can go. Never mind. Just look at this in your free time. I don't think that the acceptance for trans shit is as high as you think it is.
Okay. Sorry, just pulling up this link. That's fine, but I do think that that's generally not necessarily my argument. I guess my argument is I don't know how fair it is to just say women don't give a shit about this.
Wait, what? Who said that?
Or wait, sorry. I'm a little nervous. I think
That's okay.
Let me make sure.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Sorry. I think that it's unfair to say that because women give so much shit about this, and this is being dictated by men to push women to push trans women into women's sports. I don't know if that's a cis white guy attitude, and I think that it's unfair for you to say that.
I'm sorry. Could you say that one more time?
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I'm stumbling all over my words. So let me make sure I'm rephrasing your argument correctly. What I thought you said was that it feels shitty to women for trans women to come into their community or into their sports, right? Or into their bathrooms or whatever. And that's being dictated largely by an overwhelmingly male population.
Oh, there is at least the feeling of that, yeah.
Okay, I don't think that's a fair feeling. I don't know if it's men who are pushing that argument. I don't know if it's men who are pushing this ideology.
I don't know if it's the majority of men that are doing it, but if any man is at all involved in that, I'm sure that it can feel like there is this like encroachment on women's rights or spaces or movements by white cis men.
It feels here. Let me be a little bit upfront with you. It feels a little frustrating to me that you are so careful and so hesitant to make sure that women feel like even if there is a man involved, that this could be an encroach on their femininity. However, when we talk about trans people and they're overwhelmed, that you have so much sympathy towards cis women feeling encroached upon and not necessarily on trans women who want to feel included.
Yeah, and I don't, because I don't think that real trans people feel this way. I don't think that real trans women are out there screeching about sports constantly. I don't think real trans women are out there asking to be called a birthing person. I think this is online, like millennial or Gen Z trans people. I don't think these are even fucking real trans people. I don't think anyone's. I think every single person, when they hear birthing person, they think the exact same thing. That's some cringy, dumbass language. Sure.
But I think that when it's like, oh, hey, maybe we can use a little bit more gender inclusive language, I think most people are like, yeah, sure, that seems like a fine idea. Who the hell cares?
We're not talking about a little bit more gender inclusive language when you're talking about relabeling a person birthing person. That's a dramatic departure from.
No, but I'm saying if you want to say birthing person is stupid, I'll agree with you. But can we at least concede that using more inclusive language is a good thing, and maybe hospitals can start looking towards using gender inclusive language?
You got to be honest about what you're saying, okay?
Yeah.
The problem isn't that we're using more gender inclusive language. The problem is we're replacing language, and that feels a lot different to some people. We're not just using new terms, we're replacing ones that we've already grown accustomed to.
I don't know how to use new terms other than replace them with previous ones.
What do you mean? We can invent new terms all the time. Cis and trans are like two theoretically new kind of things, right? They come from chemistry or biology or whatever, but like you can invent new terms. But you're talking about replacing things that we already like are well understood, that have really important social places in our lexicon.
I'm not saying that we have to completely erase the entire idea of gender.
No one is saying we have to completely. I never said that either. I don't know why you would even caveat that. Literally, no one in here is saying that.
I thought that's what you were implying. My argument was. I misunderstood.
No. Sure. What I said very particularly was that we have words that we've already understood. Some of these women probably feel pretty strongly about because they're pretty tied into things relating to gender rights and abortion rights and reproductive health and everything in the United States. And now we're talking about changing some of those things that are already pretty well understood. Women probably understandably feel accepted about it, yeah.
We should be more specific as well about what exactly we're talking about when we say that women that we're using more gender inclusive language, because we're not saying that if a person's just sitting in a hospital bed or about to give birth and someone comes in and just say, how's the birthing person doing, right? Like it depends on the context specifically. So we should talk about these specific contexts. And I think that it's fair to use more gender inclusive language. I don't think that's hurting anyone. And I do think that if someone's feeling like wow, I'm not being seen because they called it a birthing area instead of a maternity ward, I would say that person's being a little ridiculous. And I don't know why you can't agree.
Who just joined?
What's up, my niggas?
Oh God. I'm sorry. Repeat that last thing because I could just fucking threw my whole fucking head off.
Yeah, I know, it's all good. If I got a dip, that's fine.
No,
But,
go.
I guess what I'm saying is I think that I think that if you are so critical of people being, if you want to point to people and say, hey, you're being ridiculous, I think that it's fair to say, hey, if someone is throwing a tantrum because we're calling it a birthing area instead of a maternity ward, you can call them a little ridiculous too.
I don't think I can actually. I don't know as a man if I can. It feels like this is like a fucking like. This is like,
I don't know why you can't be the spokesman of this specific person when you've been the spokesman of you've decided that you can be a spokesman of so many trans issues.
Fighting, but not. I'm not, because I fight for trans issues. This kind of sort of feels like a fight against women sometimes. Like it's I feel like it's validating a lot of the turfy rhetoric is when we get into these types of conversations, and that's the issue. And I got to be really careful as a man when I tread into those issues. It's like when I do
it's weird that you're being careful now, but I don't feel like you're careful when you talk about the trans issues and acknowledge that you're a cis person talking about it.
I'm super careful about talking about trans issues. What do you mean?
I feel like when you call people delusional because they're having period cramps, that might take the wrong, that you can be a little careful with your language. I don't know, just joined. I have no idea. How's it going?
No, keep going. You're killing him. Destiny's drowning.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no,
I
fucking got him.
Why can't they have period cramps?
Being reasonable towards a group of people doesn't mean you have to be reasonable towards everything. If a black person came up to me and they were like, yeah, black people are like the master race, they're genetically gifted to rule the planet.
No, of course. Yeah, we can disagree we can call it black nationalism, 100%.
That is on the level of saying I have period cramps as a trans woman. That's on the same level.
Okay. I'll even agree with you. But when we talk about our issues with black nationalism, we should still be a little bit careful with our language, because when we talk about people like Malcolm X, we talk about people like Fred Hampton or Black Panthers just in general.
Wait, are you white? Are you white yourself?
Yeah, I'm white. What's up?
So let me get this straight. For thousands of years, your people run the white power. We're the supremacy group, but now black people can't have what? A decade? Are you kidding me?
Wait, that's not what I'm saying at all.
Wait, no. What's your problem with Malcolm X?
I have no problem. Wait, no. What I'm saying is, black nationalism is bad, but we can be critical of black nationalism without disagreeing with their entire character.
Why is black nationalism bad?
I think that segregating a community is generally having ethnostates generally.
A community that's being gunned down by police officers of your skin color.
This is my point.
They have the right to segregate. They have the right to live. They have the right to be safe in their own.
Hold on. I feel like you're jumping into this argument. My entire point is that we should have sympathy towards these arguments while still disagreeing with them.
Why can't they say they're the master race?
I'm not saying they can't say it. My entire point was that we should have sympathy towards people saying that. We should hear that and say, okay, maybe this is a little bit different from white nationalists. Black nationalists are a little bit different than white nationalists, just generally based off of the centuries of discrimination that they've experienced. I think that that's fair to say when a white nationalist says that versus when a black nationalist says that. We should have sympathy towards one group while still disagreeing with them.